The Soybean School on RealAgriculture.com is brought to you by Pride Seeds, Cruiser Max Vibrance Beans, High Stick NT, and the Manitoba Pulse and Soybean Grower.
Okay, so I'm going to start with talking about how to assess soybeans for frost damage and survivability and what the potential of the stand is. And what's really making soybeans difficult to judge right now, our frost event was Saturday morning. It's Tuesday morning now, so we're 72 hours later. And if we had really good soil moisture, or had, at the Woodstock location here, had we caught a rain yesterday, we would see these beans jump. We've been really dry through the month of May. Basically, there's a lot of fields out there that have not seen rain since the beans went into the furrow. So the beans are emerging quickly, and yet it's a long process. There's beans that have started coming up in 5 days after planting, and yet those fields are still emerging 2 weeks later. So growth stage is really variable across these soybean stands. That's making them somewhat difficult to assess. I'm finding after my walks yesterday that I'm going to be probably 2, if not 3 visits to some fields over the course of the next 4 to 7 days to try to assess those stands, particularly in the absence of rain, to see what we have to do for any potential replants or what the final stand count might be, and then the viability of the stand. And right in this stretch here, we have a perfect example. So here, right in this section of row, we see varying degrees of damage and survivability. So this plant here, unifoliate leaves are fully out. First trifoliate is right there, ready to unfold. See a little bit of burn on the cotyledon leaves, but that plant's fine and healthy. We go next to it. This one's pretty easy to diagnose. It is burnt down. It's brown and black below the cotyledon leaves. There's the cotyledon leaves right there. That one's done. The one right beside it, unifoliate leaves are out. First trifoliate was just starting to pop out of that little V down in there. Cotyledon leaves are burnt pretty badly. Leaf margins of the unifoliate leaves are burnt. The tip of this emerging trifoliate is burnt. And yet that growing point is green and healthy, and that is going to survive. And actually you can see a new branch starting to come right there in that bud. So moving down the row, here we are with another healthy plant, and actually first and second trifoliate are popping. And yet it still took just a little bit of cotyledon burn there. One beside it, same way. We have another one here, and this is the one that really will fool the average eye out in the field. We'll get this one here is dead and gone. We'll get him out of the way. If we look at this one here, badly burnt. There's a lot of visual damage there. He's burnt right in the top. The unifoliate leaves, as they were unfolding, they're done. And yet this plant is still healthy for about 1/4 of an inch above the cotyledon leaves. And I'm going to actually mark this one for photography purposes, but if I had to bet today, this plant is going to survive. It will probably mushroom out into a multiple stem plant, which we've seen before coming out of frost or hail damage, for example. So the ultimate question when assessing the stands from the grower is, what should I do? Do I need to replant? Do I need to sit and wait? Do I, or am I okay? And the key thing, especially with soybeans right now, because we're dry and a lot of areas missed rain again yesterday, is the hardest thing to do after a severe frost injury is wait. And it takes 2 to 5 days, and I got a feeling that in some soybean fields it's going to take a week to really assess how many plants are going to survive in that stand. And then we have to look at overall yield potential. We have to look at the date. So today's May the 26th, I believe. We're looking at basically June 1st before a lot of replant decisions are made in soybean. Be a little bit earlier to make those decisions in corn. But in soybean, it's going to be June the 1st before we make a lot of these decisions based on the fields I saw yesterday. Some of them were fairly obvious that they needed to be replanted, but there was very few. There's a lot of them in this stage right here that we need to assess with a couple of follow-up calls over the next 4 or 5 days. The general research out there, and this is a golden rule, I guess, of assessing replants at this point in the calendar, research shows that 50% of a stand in soybeans, provided that 50% is uniform establishment and loss of stand. If you have 50% stand, you still have 90% of your yield potential. And at that point, that means that the drill is going to stay parked in the shed. We're not going to try to do anything. If we're less than 50% and it's somewhat uniform, A certified crop advisor will recommend an overseeding rate in a lot of cases, potentially drive on the angle across the field or find some other solution, but to overseed and fill in the stand. One of the really challenging ones is, it's all fine and good if we find fields that have very uniform percent loss across the field, but that's a rarity. And then we get into the patching in process in soybeans, and that's not a lot of fun. But sometimes it has to be done if you have low areas that have been burnt right off and require pretty much 100% replacement. And then you get into other areas that are only 50% gone, and you have to lighten up rate. So it becomes quite challenging. But the golden rule I use, if you have 50% of a stand, you have 90% yield potential, and we leave the seed in the bag and the drill in the shed.